Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to today's episode of NTV's Talking Point. I'm your host, Syed Neaz Ahmed. In our studios today, we have a very distinguished guest, Lord Ahmed of Wimbledon. Lord Ahmed of Wimbledon does not need any introduction, but for those of you who are not in London and outside the United Kingdom, I must inform you that he has a long political background as well as financial and business background in the city of London. He graduated in business, joined NatWest, later he joined Alliance Bernstein, then Sugden Financial, and he is a member of the Institute of Directors, Associate of the Institute of Financial Services. When he joined, or was made a peer by Her Majesty the Queen, everybody knew and expected that with him he brings a lot of experience of finance and business to the Parliament. Welcome to the show.
Assalamu alaikum. It's my pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you. I'm so happy and honored that you could make time through London's very well-known
traffic. Well, it wasn't too bad this evening, I would say. We had a reasonably easy journey.
Great, great. For the benefit of our viewers, I will say overseas, in Europe, and also some of our viewers who can get a glimpse of yours, I hope, today in North Africa.
Mm-hmm.
So would you like to say something about your journey, the political journey?
Well, the political journey, I think it'd be apt for me to reflect back at, the time when my father first arrived in the UK, which was in the early 50s.
Yes.
Daddy Marhum was someone who came sort of, if you like, in a way with the right philosophy in terms of making Britain his home. It was 1953, it was Scotland, it was Glasgow, and here was a man who arrived from the subcontinent with three founding principles.
Pretty cool.
Pretty cold and
no central heating.
No central heating, and also, here was a man talking with, if you like, a Indian accent in a place where Glaswegian, and the Glaswegian accent, anyone who comes across it knows it's pretty tough.
Pretty difficult to understand.
Absolutely. But you know what? My grandfather, who was an English teacher in India and then subsequently in Pakistan, he was someone who gave him three founding principles. He said, get to know the people, get to know the culture and the language, and really assimilate yourself within society. So Daddy joined a hockey club.
Right.
He was a good amateur hockey
player. Or Glasgow.
In Glasgow. He also enlisted with the local council to help out in the homes for the elderly.
Right.
And he actually, the first diploma he did was in English literature.
Oh, great.
So very quickly, he knew people of his own age. There were people of much senior age who actually welcomed them into his home. And he got to understand the country, which would become his. And I think that was a philosophy that he instilled in all of us. He started on the railways. He finished life as an accountant working for an airline in the West End of London. But he told us, yes, about education. He also told us about building a good future for ourselves and our families. But also, most importantly, that give to the society, the community of which you're an integral part. And that, if you like, why I reflect on that, that was the basis on which allowed me to, if you like, as you said, begin my journey in political engagement.
Did he join any political party?
He didn't, but he was very supportive. I joined the Conservative Party in 1994. Now, those of you who do cast their mind back, and your viewers who will know, that was the time under John Major's leadership. But the party was not in a good place, the Conservative Party. There was lots of challenges, lots of infighting at that time.
After a long reign of Margaret Thatcher.
Absolutely, but some people actually thought, why, Tariq, why are you joining the Conservative Party? And I did it on principle. What mattered to me, hard work, perseverance, respect of law and order, respect of society, respect of elders, a free market spirit, entrepreneurialism. And I felt that if I was going to go and knock on someone's door on a cold night in November, I needed to have some kind of really stake in the principle, the ideology of the party I wish to represent. And therefore, it was a bit of a no-brainer for me to join the Conservative Party.
Well, we were talking about your journey. You started as a councillor, and it has been quite phenomenal, your progress.
Well, I think with the blessing...
You did take part in the parliamentary election once in
I
2005,
did. Yeah.
From where I live.
Right, in Croydon. Well, there you go. Well, I hope you voted for me at that time. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think I was here. I was working overseas those days.
I'll let you off in that case. But no, I became engaged in local politics because I think it was important to see what politics involves. What does it actually mean? So I was a councillor in Wimbledon Park, where I grew up for 10 years. I served as a cabinet member there in Merton Council, looking after environment and regeneration initially, then communities and policing. And you're quite right, I fought a parliamentary election for the Conservatives in 2005 in Croydon North against the late Malcolm Wicks. And I think what were the learnings there is actually it's perseverance, it's hard work. And Malcolm and I also became good friends, and sadly he passed away a few years ago. But I remember one of the things that marked our electoral campaign was one of mutual respect for each other. Yes, we had ideological policy differences, but it never got personal, and I think that was very important in my journey.
That constituency continues to be Labour's.
It does. I managed to sort of dig into Malcolm's vote a bit, but it was but it was about how you cut your teeth on a seat.
True.
And after that, when David Cameron became the leader of the Conservative Party, after a little while I was advising on various policies. I continued my city career. He appointed me vice chairman of the Conservative Party in 2008 with a specific focus on communities.
Was this when Syed Neaz was the chairperson?
She was. She was vice chairman as well, and then after she moved on, I took over the reins, and it was an extremely interesting experience. At that time, when I was appointed, Caroline Spellman was the Conservative Party chairman, but subsequently Eric Pickles became Conservative Party chairman, and several years fast forward, Eric and I renewed our...
You shared some responsibilities.
Exactly, yes, and he's my boss now in the department in which I'm a minister. But I think it was an interesting time for the Conservative Party. We'd had the Blair years and Gordon Brown's premiership, and David Cameron had refreshed the party, he had revitalised the party, and to make the party not forget its principles, but refresh its policies to make it relevant for the Britain we have today, and I think we did that quite successfully.
In not so many days we will be going to polls to see the parliamentary election. I think May 7th, isn't it?
Indeed.
That will be a Thursday. I will have to do my show.
Well, hopefully you'll go out and vote early on that.
What a pity I won't be able to invite you that day.
Yeah, I think I might be a tad busy, but...
You as somebody responsible for the communities, how do you look at the present trend of, there's a lot on the plate, like Islamophobia, and then again, some time ago, you were one of the signatories of the letter that went out to 1,000 imams and sheikhs and scholars, you see. And some of them have, I think, taken it very strongly, and some of them have replied to it. It appeared, I think, in yesterday's Guardian. Yes, 61 of them have not rejoined, I would not say, but they have said things that I'll go later from there. But what do you think what is the reason for Islamophobia? Is it just militancy, extremism, or is it something that we can't see?
Well, again, if we take a step back from this, I'm born and bred in my country. I'm proud of my country. But at the same time, I'm also proud of my origins. And that's never something I diluted. And I also wear my faith on my sleeve.
You were born here?
I was born and bred here, yes.
So Mr. Nigel Farage will have nothing against you?
Well, hopefully not. I know Mr. Farage, and certainly whenever I've met Mr. Farage, Nigel's not said anything discourteous to me. But I think it is important. I'm a father of 3 children. I mean, earlier we were talking before we came on air. I'm blessed. I have eldest daughter, Shaista, who's 9, then Mansoor, or Chunu as we call him. He's now coming on to 3, and we've got a young little baby, Faris. And I think in all 3 cases, what kind of society do I want them to grow up in? I want them to be proud of their country. I want them to be proud of their parents and their heritage. But equally, I want them to be proud of their faith of Islam. And I think if you look back at the letter, and I'm sure when you read it, there was nothing offensive in the letter Eric and I wrote. What did it do? It was in the aftermath of Charlie Hebdo. It was actually thanking the Muslim community for coming together, the collaborative approach it had in standing against tyranny, extremism in all its ugly guises. Secondly, it was a letter of reassurance. It said, if you're concerned about reprisals, as you said, about Islamophobia, how do we come together in tackling this? If you're concerned about attacks on community centers or mosques, what should you do? What the government is doing to help with you, what the police is doing. And thirdly, it actually explicitly said, Muslim values are British values are Muslim values. We're in this together, to quote the Prime Minister from our previous elections campaign. What was that togetherness? That togetherness means we celebrate what we are. It means that the government wants to help to facilitate and work with the Muslim community in accentuating the positive features, and I'll come on to that in a moment, if I may. But also there was a challenge as well. There's a challenge for all of us in society and community. But I put it to you as well that, you know, there are heinous crimes, there are acts of terrorism and extremism which are being claimed in the name of Islam. Nothing could be further from the truth. Is this the Islam that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam presented to the world? Of course not.
Not at all.
It is the Islam that's followed by over, you know, 1 billion people across the world. No. But it is incumbent that if someone acts in our name and says this is the Islam that I'm acting
but
on.
somewhere between the lines in that letter, they thought, the imams, the scholars, I didn't see the letter because I'm not an imam.
Yeah.
So they thought that mosques were made to look responsible as the hotbeds of extremism or...
But there was nothing in the letter which in any way implied that or explicitly said so. On the contrary, it actually said mosques, like any other places of worship around the country, are at the forefront of community leadership. It actually commended the effort of Muslims in every field and every, you know, part of life. I mean, recently, for example, over the last couple of years, the government has launched a program called the Big Iftar, that during Ramadan, mosques open up your doors to your local communities to come and break the bread, to open up the iftari with the local community. And that's been taken up by 100 mosques. We've now 1,000 mosques know the communities department are very much engaged. I hope 1,000 mosques, inshallah, open their doors. Coming up next week, we are announcing a new initiative called Sadaqah Day. And by definition, this will be again a positive element of Islam, where the government's working with the community to open the doors to say, what is Sadaqah? It's charity. It's saying, let's come together in acts of charity on a particular given day for two reasons. One, because this is what our faith teaches us of Islam. But secondly, it's something that's embraced in our great country, in the UK. Charitable acts are not the monopoly of one religion or one community.
This is a welfare state.
Of course, well, a welfare state, but also charity is part of faith, and no faith communities as well. But charity also embraces communities. It brings people together. And I think it was unfortunate. I mean, you mentioned certain imams and certain leaders. I do recall that day very well. And it was unfortunate. There were certain representatives of umbrella groups, Muslim communities, who actually came on to be critical of the letter. And it very quickly emerged, by their own admission, they hadn't even read the letter. So Islam doesn't teach you ignorance, it teaches you education. Islam teaches you to acquire knowledge, and perhaps they would have been better placed to actually have read the letter rather than react to a media story.
Understand it first.
Understand, not just understand, read it. The basic thing, if you're going to go on to be critical or supportive of anything, read the document and then take it from there. And I think we are at a crossroads here with community relations. I think Britain is phenomenal in terms of how it's allowed people to progress, or different migrant communities, different faiths over centuries. And you know what? We're going through some challenging times, but I think we're going to emerge very positive and a stronger community and nation after these challenges. We've confronted them and actually faced up to them.
Lord Ahmed, inshallah, will talk further on this, and we have to take the commercial break, which I call our bread and butter. And one cannot live without bread.
That's very true.
Okay, viewers, thank you very much for being with us. We'll continue with this very interesting discussion with Lord Ahmed of Wimbledon. Don't go away. We'll be back soon.
আপনারা দেখছেন টকিং পয়েন্ট, সৌজন্যে স্যাপ সলিসিটরস, যে কোনো আইনি পরামর্শের জন্য।